Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Robo Celestial here with a new video for you. Welcome to the part 10 of What If Deku Was a Saiyan. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. This is canon to the anime and manga which has been confirmed by Kohei Horikoshi. It's connected to the manga and should take place between the start of Ep 1 of Season 3 and the ending of Season 2. As Deku wakes up with All Might for his epic dream and tells him that we're at the Article City with 100,000 scientists. He questions and says this is cool and all, but should I really be here? I'm not even your sucker. All Might says I got innovation which said I could bring a companion. I asked Myro first but he was busy so I came to you. Deku replies, but isn't that for a family? All Might says we may not be connected by blood, but we have a stronger and greater bond than that. They arrive at the island, everyone swarms All Might asking for autographs. All Might says we'll be meeting a friend, I haven't told her about it because whoever knows the secret of One for All is now in danger too. They meet All Might's nephew Melissa and she starts to examine Deku similarly to how Meihatsu. A couple of villains who entered into the island start plotting a plan. This makes him uncomfortable thinking about that and she is so close. All Might meets the professor and introduces Deku. Deku starts fanboying about how he made a Golden Age All Might hero custom and Young Age. Professor asks Melissa to show Deku around while All Might and he talks. She mentions there will be a party with the industry tonight and suggests he goes, but before that they check out the pavilion. As they look around in the pavilion they run into Uraraka, Yaoyorozu, and Gyro. They all think they're on a date. Deku introduces Melissa and clears some things up and says it All Might's. Deku interrupts and says how about a drink? They all go outside for a drink. Deku, exhausted from that situation, gets a drink served from Kaminari. Deku asks, what are you doing here? Kaminari replies saying the expo was low on staff so I applied, would have gone with Minta if he wasn't expelled. Kaminari sees all the girls at the table and looks at Melissa asking Deku, where did you find that hottie? Lita dashes over running into Kaminari, everyone shouts Lita. They hear a thump and they see a big dust cloud. Deku runs over to see what it is and it's Kirishima. Bakago walks from the below. Deku yells Kakin, the announcer yells go and Bakago yells die, destroying all of the fake villains on the cliff, getting 15 seconds. Kirishima points out Deku is on the railing watching. Bakago jumps over and yelling says, hey monkey, why are you up here? Kirishima says your guy's going to try it. Bakago yells don't bother, I'm better than you. Deku says we'll see and Uraraka says go Deku. Deku prepares himself and the announcer says go. He quickly flies towards each of the fake villains and destroying them in one punch and getting 4 seconds. Everyone shocked by this and the announcer says first place recorded. Melissa is surprised by his explosion and destructive power. Bakago yells, impossible, what trickery did you use, a monkey? Todoroki goes up and freezes everything, getting 14 seconds, putting him in second and Bakugo in third. Bakugo with anger flies over to Todoroki and says, appearing suddenly, trying to make everyone think you're amazing, you bastard. All the guys try to calm down Bakugo while the girls except Melissa are embarrassed by this. The professor looks at All Might, see his quirk going down at a rapid rate, getting shocked by this and says if this keeps up we'll lose the symbol of peace, and how would we defend if another person like All for One came around? All Might says I can still go into my buff form for a few hours a day. The professor says yeah, but the only reason why Japan is at 6% crime rate is because of you, meanwhile other places have a 20%. Later everyone starts meeting up to go to the big event that's tonight. The villains from earlier start locking doors at the control panel, readying their attack since they know All Might will be there. The villains make the island go into lockdown mode, keeping everyone contained in the event and outside too. A bunch of men with guns start walking and turning the crowd into hostages. They show a screen of all the robots on the island ready to attack innocent people. The main guy shouts everyone on the island is now a hostage. He says that into the walkie-talkie to a bunch of blue stripe, tie up all the heroes, making them unable to move. Deku asks Melissa if there's any way to get to the party. She says there are emergency stairs that will lead us close to it. The villain looks at Professor David's assistant and asks him to come along, but David waits. The guy says take him to David. Ask if I don't what will happen. He says someone will die. Deku and the rest are above the party using earphone jack to talk to All Might, filling him in on what's happening. Lydia says I think we should do what a teacher says and get out, but Deku refuses and says we are heroes so we can't back out now. Deku starts giving a well thought on agreement on which everyone agrees and grudging Lydia agrees too. Melissa says if he can get to the top of the tower we can turn off the controls. They take stairs to avoid villains going up and up for a while. The villains see them going to the control center and start closing the 80th floor and sending men after them. The shutters are closing from both ends. Deku quickly shoots a Kai blast, breaking the shutter in front. Lydia goes through and kicks the door open to the 80th floor plant factory and says everyone follows. Gyro sees the elevator numbers going up and calls it out. Everyone realizes villains are coming, so they hide so they don't have to fight them. Kaminari asks if you can use the elevator to get out. Melissa says no, you got to be an authorized person and you can't destroy it either because it's as sturdy as a bomb shelter. The villains come out looking for them, everyone confused on what to do until suddenly when Bakago and Kirishima show up confronting them. Bakago says, "What did you say, bastard?" Kirishima tries to ask if we're lost. The villain sees throw it and attacks Kirishima. Todoroki blocks the attack with the ice while Deku and the rest get lifting up by the ice to look for a place to get out. Todoroki, Bakago, and Kirishima start fighting the villains. Deku sees them below and shoots Kai a tiny beam, badly injuring the villain. Kirishima yells thanks for the save. Deku sees a vent and asks if we can go from up there. Melissa says no, it can only be opened from the inside. Deku says well, that shouldn't be a problem and blasts the vent off. Melissa says that can take you to the outside to the control center. We just need someone who can get into the crammed vent and climb the outer wall. Deku says I'll go, I can fly. He flies into the vent, scaling the tower. He gets to the top, dropping ladder, and everyone climbs up. Todoroki, Kirishima and Bakago finish off the villains, but the villains at the control center send robots to keep them in check. The boss tells them to send robots to floor 130 where they are heading. Deku and the rest run into them. Lydia says there are so many. How will we get past? Deku says I'll take care of them if he jumps out, launching a few Kitakyushu windy vortex. Then he powers up and charges a Tokyo blast, taking them all out. Everyone is surprised by the power he in just 2 moves. They make it to the 138th floor but run into even more robots. Lydia says we'll stall. Deku and Melissa go to the opposite route. They get to the wind power generator. Deku picks on Melissa and flies up towards the control tower. Bakugo, Todoroki, and Kirishima come to help Lydia and the rest with the robots. Deku breaks into the control tower and a guy comes from behind with a metal hand. Deku turns around, grabbing it, and crushes it with ease and then elbows him in the stomach. He kicks him, sending him flying through the crack in the wall. More gunmen shows up at level 200. Deku rushes towards dodge the bullets, taking each one of them out with a single blow. They reach the central tower. They run into David on the top floor, wondering what he's doing. They try to save him. Melissa asks David, "Don't tell me you're behind all of this to get that device." He says yes it is. His assistant says the professor is trying to get back what was stolen from him. This groundbreaking invention that mechanically amplifies quirks. Deku says, "What do you mean by amplifying quirks?" David says yes. It is still in testing, but with this device, unlike with drugs, quirks can be amplified without affecting the body. However, the sponsors confiscated this invention and research data. The research itself was frozen. If this was known to the world, then the structure of superhuman society would change drastically. David explains that he planned to get fake villains to stage it so he could get his inventions back. Deku realizes that David was scared that All Might would lose his power. The main guy walks when Deku sees him and powers up. The villain uses metal to pin towards the wall, but Deku breaks out, kicking him in the stomach. He's about to attack the villain when suddenly he shoots his assistant and demands him to give him the suitcase. Deku tells Melissa to take the door they busted down to the control room. She runs towards the door. The boss tries to stop her, but Deku gets in the way, giving her enough time to get to the door. He sends a metal pillar trying to trap Deku while his other guy tries to attack him. Deku easily dispatches the guy and breaks through the metal. T-Boss sends a ton of metal pillars, slowing down Deku, giving him enough time to grab the briefcase and shoots David in the shoulder and take him too. Melissa shuts down the security system, saving everyone. All Might is smashing his way to the top too. The villains take David and the briefcase to the helicopter. Deku, lagging behind, speeds up to stop them, but the boss makes steel pillars. Deku jumps from pillar to pillar but gets hit by one, knocking him onto the floor. They start flying up. All Might sees this and jumps so high that he goes above the helicopter and says, "I am here," destroys it. Deku and Melissa look up and say, "All Might." Deku sees David falling, so he flies up to catch him, bringing him down. All Might comes down, seeing if David is alright. David says All Mig and then gets snatched by the boss metal control quirk. They turn around, seeing a huge machine. All Might says, "Crap, my time limit is running out. You just don't know when to give up." He jumps towards boss, yelling Texas Smash. The boss blocks it with a big metal block and punches All Might away with metal. He begins to start taking the metal around, come towards the machine and becoming one with it because of his amplified quirk. All Might hops up, breaking, trying to break a big pillar, but he's struggling to do. The metal boss yells, "Get crushed," sending metal pillars towards All Might, but then Todoroki freezes the metal pillars and Bakago sends explosions towards the villain. The villain blocks the explosion with a big metal pillar. Bakago shouts, "How can you lose to a late boss, huh, All Might?" Everyone else joins in to help, which inspires All Might to go beyond plus ultra. He starts running up the pillars, destroying some. To getting close, the metal villain sends 3 metal rods towards All Might. All Might yells Carolina Smash, breaking it. He flies towards the villain, but The villain uses metal to bars to hold him back, choking him and grabbing him on his injured spot. Deku sees this and jumps up, powering up, clutching his fist with all his might, saying to tear out, smash, breaking All Might free. All Might asks if Deku if alright. He says, with that body of yours you're being too reckless. Deku smiles and says, like you're the one to talk. A hero has to save those in trouble. All Might smiles and laughs. He says, lend me a hand, Deku. Deku powers up. All Might says, let's go. The metal villain says, you worthless little brat, you're nothing better than trash. You don't know when to give up, and makes a bunch of metal cubes sending towards them. Bakugo says, you're the one who doesn't die, and shoots an explosion, destroying all of them. He sends in more metal rods trying to stop Deku and All Might, but Todoroki uses his ice and blocks them. All Might runs, dodging and destroying the metal, and so does Deku, kicking a metal cube open. All Might and Deku run on the metal pillar and sink. The metal boss makes an even bigger metal cube than before. Deku and All Might jump up, clenching their fist. All Might says, to overcome the crisis in front of you. Deku says, with everything you've got. Then All Might says, and save people. Deku finish off his sentence with everything that you've got. All Might says, that is what makes. Deku says, a hero. The metal villain launches the huge metal square at them. They both yell double Detriot smash. Deku and All Might screaming as the cube breaks. Everyone cheers on All Might and Deku. Deku yells, Jasu Jujutsu X6 no. I need to go beyond that X10. Deku says, go. All Might says, beyond, and they both say in unison, plus a de ult ra, destroying the villain, completely saving David and killing the villain. Everyone cheers for them beating the villain. Bakugo scoffs and looks away. Todoroki says, what's the matter? A second ago you were smiling, that's rare. Bakugo says, shut up. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description. So feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video. So goodbye and have a divine day.